Welcome to the Hourly Podcast. In today's episode, Meagan Francisco discusses her role as Talent Acquisition Manager at Bolero Corp, a company that operates over 350 entertainment centers across North America. She shares insights into the company's culture, recruitment strategies, and the importance of finding employees who embody the fun and engaging atmosphere of their venues. The discussion covers various aspects of hiring, including the significance of job descriptions, the boomerang effect of former employees returning, and creative screening techniques for both the hourly and management positions. Meagan then emphasizes the importance of employee engagement and retention strategies, as well as the challenges of measuring turnover in a diverse workforce. Enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by JoJo, an AI virtual recruiter powered by Sprockets. Designed for the hourly workforce, JoJo works 24/7 to source, screen, and schedule interviews with the best applicants for your business. JoJo helps reduce employee turnover and time spent hiring so you and your team can focus on other important tasks. To learn more, head to sprockets.ai/JoJo.
No, Meagan, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast today. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. I'm excited to chat with you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your work. So what do you do? What company are you at? And what are you passionate about?
I love this question. So what I do is I talk to people all day about what kind of job they want, find a best fit for both parties. I'm currently working with Bolero Corp. They are the owner and operator of over 350 entertainment centers in US, Canada, Mexico. So huge company. Own 3 different brands, Lucky Strike, the Bolero brand, and AMF. It provides a great variety. You know, there's bowling specific centers where it's really focused on leagues. We own the Pro Bowlers Association, so bowling as a sport. And then all the way up to experiential centers, as we call them, like Lucky Strike, where it's just a swanky, cool environment to get together with friends and just have a great time.
And is it franchised out or is it all owned by one?
No, all owned by Bolero Corp.
Wow. How many employees is it?
We in the field, we have over 10,000, just over 10,000. And then company-wide, it's about 12,000.
So talk to me about like that. So, one thing, and I know from following you on LinkedIn, matchmaking from you, right?
Yes.
But that's very difficult to do at scale, right? So like easier said than done where you see, and when you're talking to AJ or Kiki and you're like, hey, I think you'd be good here. But how do you do that 10,000 times? Like what are some things you guys have deployed to make sure the right people are in the right seat?
That is a great question. And the cool thing about the space that we're recruiting in, entertainment as it's called, is that there's so many skill sets that can be utilized and people have fun while they do it. So it's not a cookie cutter mold. And I'm a huge advocate for the fact that how you interview somebody really matters, because we're operating in a space where we sell fun, we sell experiences. And so we don't want people that are boring and bland and don't thrive in that environment. So when you talk about doing this at scale, we really focus on training our team that how you interview somebody matters, how you show up, the energy that you bring, because that directly translates to their expectations of the role. My team, it's a pretty large recruiting team. We have people focused on hiring our hourly team, which is a massive undertaking. And then we have management recruiters who hire the leaders who then, inspire and coach and train the hourly team members.
Interesting. And when you think about fun and exciting, because I love it, and we're already like digging into culture, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
Basically, what I heard from you is like, hey, to be successful here, you have to be fun, exciting, engaging, all those different things, because that's what customers want and the culture that you build, right? So like, what are some ways, before we get into like how you find that sort of person, how you like screen for it, how do you like actively recruit that type of person? Is it job description language? Is it career page, something interesting? Like, how do you go out and create that magnet?
I wish there was one answer to this question, because I think
I'm excited for several.
we would be millionaires if we just had the magic bullet. But I think you hit on it. It's all the materials that we present to a potential candidate, even if they're our guests, has to match the culture and the vibe that we're talking about. So we spend a lot of time on our job descriptions, making sure that they show that this is not a desk job. You're on your feet, you're talking to people, you're carrying things, you're lifting things. Right. You also need to know that it's a loud environment. There's music playing, there's lights, there's video games, there's bowling. And so there's a lot of effort put into the job descriptions, a lot of emphasis with our marketing team put on kind of the voice of our brand on the images and all the collateral that we want to send out. And so, even if you have never been to one of our centers, a Lucky Strike, a Bolero, whatever it might be, at least from the tone of our communication that it's different. You want to learn more. We want to kind of intrigue you a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing that like I'm currently obsessed with in the hiring space is like the argument of do hourly workers read job descriptions? Right? So like, because of a lot of different things, I feel like it's become easier than ever to apply to jobs in mass, right? Yep. And that's one of our thesis in the book, as well as at the tech company. And when I'm talking to operators, there's a differing opinion here. They're like, hey, it doesn't matter because they're doing Indeed Quick Apply and they're applying to 40 other companies. And so pace is where you need to spend your attention, not necessarily the job description. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I would tend to agree, but there does come a point where once they have an interview set up and they're in the building, like we actually have job descriptions printed for when it comes to compliance, like can you actually fulfill the job responsibilities? You have to have it there and present. But, we have a legal job description, and then we have a job posting, and we can tweak the language in both. So the job posting speaks more to you can grow here. Here's what we're paying you. Here are the benefits, the things that actually intrigue people to really catch your eye, because you don't have a lot of time. You have maybe 3 seconds for a candidate to scroll and be interested or not. So you got to pick your words carefully. But I think it does matter.
And do you find like what's the average age of an entry level at one of the locations? Is it very young? Like, would you say you have a younger workforce or more of the incumbent?
That's a great question. And I have a really cool stat to answer this. Anthony on our HRIS team helped me pull some fun stats for this podcast. I told him I'd give him a shout out.
If we don't hit them all, I'm just going to ask at the end, be like,
there you go.
All the stats you have.
Perfect. But, there's some laws where we can't hire under a certain age, but we are a lot of people's first time job, 16 in some places, but mostly 18 to 21. And of our current workforce, which is, what did I say, about 12,000, 10% of them have left and come back to work for us now. So that just shows you that, hey, we could be your first job, but we will treat you so well and give you room to grow and make you have a lot of fun that you want to come back and keep working with us.
Are they coming back to the same location, or are they moving cities and then going back?
It's all over the place. It's and that's not including our seasonal positions. This is like, I've decided to come back and make this a career. Maybe you move to a different state and we have a location there. Be all over the place. That's pretty cool.
I call them boomerangs, right? So
yes,
it's like,
love that.
Because I like the concept of boomerangs in employees, but I also like the idea of boomerangs as applicants, right? So like one of the things that I'm really passionate about is treating your applicant pool as a community versus like a one-off. Like you either hire the person or you don't, right? Because if somebody applies to even 10 jobs, which is less than what they're doing right now, but let's just say it's 10. If they take another job in your area, doesn't mean they're not valuable to you long term. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, right? Like,
not at all.
It's like likely that somebody got to them faster. Maybe they had another opportunity. Maybe something happened in their life where they couldn't show up for the interview. Like, or maybe, and call me old fashioned, but maybe the GM or the hiring manager didn't do a good job, right? And it's like, you can't place the blame on the applicants. And, I've seen instances where people are able to, when they create a community of applicants, re-engage over 50% of all of those people. So instead of kind of you recruit, 15 people for this one position, you hire one and then the rest go into what I call lovingly the candidate graveyard. You keep all those people warm over a period of time and they will eventually convert, right? My favorite stat is the marketing one where it's it takes 7 impressions to get somebody to buy something. It's the law of sevens. and yet we expect applicants to apply and take the job on the first one. It's like, no, like you got to like constantly show yourself, show your logo, and all these different things. So do you see a boomerang at applicants too? Are you actively chasing them? Like, how do you view that at the company?
Yeah, we love the boomerang applicants because, as you know, I do a lot more recruiting in the management space, so it's a more drawn out process, different screening tools. But the most successful people that we hire had a lot of multiple check-in points. Maybe they were a referral, maybe they've been with us before, they were a league bowler, they've seen so many different interactions on social media. So yeah, we're definitely not a "you're dead to us" type of company. We want to continue to engage with you, and it might be, you know, the GM changed, moved to a different location, there's a new GM, and now it's a different, you know, you're building a different culture of sales that you're looking for different talents. So timing matters, I think, a lot when people decide to join a company.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's talk a little bit about then. We talked about how to like become a magnet, find fun, exciting, energetic
Yeah.
people. How do you screen for that? Is it questions? Is it, you know, you put them on a bowling alley and you say, hey, you got to bowl a 150 to get a job here? Like, that'd be good.
I think if we relied on your bowling average, we wouldn't hire anybody.
I don't think you'd hire me then because I think
No.
I bowl an 80. We'll
Yeah.
have
With
to come by
bumpers,
and
that's me.
check it out. But how do you screen for them right now, knowing that that's the type of person that you want?
That's a really good question. And if you'll allow me, I'll kind of divide it into an hourly space and then a management space. So
Sure.
for the hourly side of things, again, going back to, we're here to self-fund. So we want our interview process to mirror what we expect you to provide our guests. And so we actually have a bunch of different options. You know, we can set up a hiring event where you're in our center, you get to try some of our food. While you wait for your interview, you do get to bowl. And we're not keeping track of your score, but we're looking at, are you engaging with other people that are there to interview? Are you asking questions? Are you looking around? Are you interested in the menu? So there's a lot of soft skills that are being evaluated, but then it does come down to, how do you present yourself? You're in our center, again, the music, the vibe, the ambience. How do you react to that? If you are a person that are very introverted and you'd rather be, you know, behind a desk talking to people, then we do have positions for you. And that's what we'll talk about in the interview. You know, we offer tech positions where if you like to just repair video games, hey, we have a spot for you. We have an arcade team that goes around and fixes games. Not necessarily a lot of guest interaction, so that's a perfect role for someone who's not people focused. But you know, if it's your first job and you're a little nervous, you don't know what to expect, but you're up front and you're like, hey, AJ, I really want to work here. I love the environment. What do you got for me? We can work with people like that. We can work with seasoned professionals. And so it's more than just the questions you ask, more the script. You know, it's evaluating body language. I was at a company before where at a hiring site I would play cornhole with people. And I don't care how good you are at cornhole, but the fact that you're willing to get up and play with me to begin with, we hired 90% of those people. So it's about, you know, being creative, doing things differently, and engaging.
What would somebody say if they, you know, if they didn't want to play cornhole? They say, hey, I'd rather not.
Yeah. And they sit there in the chair looking at the clipboard, just waiting to be called, you know. And I'm a firm believer that everything's an interview. Everything we do is an interview. You know, you're interviewing me now, I'm interviewing you. It's your whole life is an interview. And so you got to take chances and say yes and be outgoing when you're in a center like ours.
Yeah. But yeah, keep going.
So for the management side, it's a bit different because my team works remotely. We talk to candidates on the phone or via Zoom like this, right? And so this is where it's something I'm really passionate about. Again, going back to the how you interview somebody matters, because believe it or not, people don't know Bolero. People, like you said, they're just mass applying and, hey, I got a call and now this girl Megan's talking to me and I didn't do any research on the company. But what they're going to leave the interview with, talking to me or someone on our talent team, is that, you know, we had a ton of energy. It felt like a conversation, not an interrogation. It wasn't scripted. You know, we followed the natural flow of the conversation. And whether we hire them or not, they're going to end thinking that, oh my gosh, I have to go either bowl at Bolero or I want to work there in some capacity. So it's a matter of stepping outside of the HR shell, meaning you still have to be conscious of what you're asking, how you're asking. Don't break any laws, but don't stick to a script. You know, be energetic, ask about, things on their resume, and then just go down the rabbit hole with them. So
Interesting. And like one thing that like strikes me about your org that may be unique, but I know a lot of our other operators that listen in deal with is you have so many positions that are so eclectic and diverse and skill set and interest. And, that's not just vertical where you have like entry level all the way to CEO, but also horizontal, it seems, right? So it's like you can be the person in the back, like cleaning the pins. I don't even know what it is, right? Or you could be a bartender serving alcohol, or you could be the person making sure that everyone's bumpers are up properly, right?
Yeah.
So how when somebody comes in, is it from the hourly role? Are you really interviewing them for the role they came in, or are you teaching the managers and hiring managers like, hey, this person's coming in, like let's see if we like them, and then try to put them in the right spot?
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly that. So a lot of people apply to be a bartender because they think anybody can bartend. Right. And so, we want to get you in the door because we want to talk to you. Right. And so maybe you don't have the skill set yet to be a bartender, but you're motivated to learn and grow. We can do a lot with that. Yeah. And so when it comes to our hiring teams, they're looking for more so energy, personality, and the willingness to learn and do more. So we say, hey, Jay, you're here to talk about a bartending position. Have you bartended before? Nope. Have you worked in a restaurant before? Nope. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I like working with people. Well, hey, let's start you at the front desk. You'll learn that role, and you can, then move to a bar back and learn your alcohols, learn the steps of service. So it's a great way to get people to expand their own horizons.
Yeah. And I'll ask this because I'm fascinated by the number of kind of business units you have within the hourly workforce. Like, I think that's super interesting. When you're thinking about turnover and performance and 90-day retention and all these different things, like where do you benchmark? Like, are you benchmarking against restaurants? Are you benchmarking versus entertainment? Like, how do you define success in a business that touches so many different things? Or you're just like, hey, we're just against ourselves quarter over quarter?
Both. Definitely both. When I mentioned at the beginning, we have different experiences that you can have in the different brands of our centers. And so some we can compare to retail type environments, and some we compare to restaurant brands. So when you're looking at the enterprise as a whole, you kind of have to pick and choose the median there, and then break it down to a center and position specific level. But check-ins, like we have a ton of check-ins benchmarked as part of our hiring process, 30, 60, 90, both from your in-center manager and the person that recruited you. So it's this holistic approach of we all as a company care about your success here, and how can we knock down roadblocks or help give you tools that you might be missing.
Yeah, because I bet you turnover too across the business units, they likely differ in like the characteristics of churn, right, or of turnover. So I'm so excited. I get so excited when I have to talk about this, but whenever somebody, especially in restaurants, talking about 144% turnover, I'm always asking them like, hey, like, what do you know about that turnover? Why are people leaving? Like, talk to me a little bit about it. People always kind of circle around the basic idea that, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on is turnover is really two numbers. It's like 400% of like the people who are there for 90 days. And then there's like a small group of employees the turnover is actually 0%. So when you walk and you look through your organization, it's actually the turnover is like way weighted towards one, the hourly workers, and two, the people who just got there. Right. So it's like if you can make it to day, in some businesses, it's 56, it's day 70, it's day 120, then the business knows that, I say this lovingly, like they have you, right? Like you're going to stay, you're happy there. And it would take like you graduating college or you moving or some crazy opportunity outside to get you away from it. But when I'm talking with the operators, a lot of times people just kind of talk about turnover as all being the same. Like, oh, everyone turns over all the time. I'm like, no, it's not the case. Do you have that phenomenon in your business, or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, turnover is another one where if we just had one answer to solve, I think we'd be rich. But, turnover is there's a bunch of different categories that we measure. There's a bucket of workers that we're getting ready to hire now, which is the seasonal workforce, right? For the Thanksgiving to Christmas And that's a whole separate, how can we rehire seasonal workers? So that's a different bucket. And then there is the turnover of, if you make it at 90 days, then it's logical you'll be here for a year and a half. And then from that point, it's our responsibility to keep engaging you and giving you new responsibilities to keep you longer than that. And then we have people who have celebrated 39 years with the company. And so it's incredible. And those people that stay with us that long are the ones overwhelmingly that when I talk to them say, hey, what kept you here so long? What was it about Bolero that made you stay? Two things. The most overwhelming thing I hear is, my leader believed in me and I felt valued. That's key. And then the second thing is I ask them, why did you even start at Bolero? What got you here in the first place? And it's always, well, I just needed something, I needed a part-time job. And then we gave you all the opportunities like I talked about before, and the rest is history. So that leadership piece and having someone that believes that people are people and want to see them genuinely succeed is the key to retention and turnover.
Yeah, totally get it. All right, before I do my last question that I give to everyone, I want to give you a chance to share any of that data that you wanted to, if you have it. Yeah.
I think the biggest number that I was excited about was that 10% of our workforce left and came back. Just because it's like,
really proud.
People don't know what they want to do with their lives, and they're like, Bolero was a blast.
And without saying, because we don't like talking about specific technologies on the platform, but do you use a specific software for those boomerang? Do you have like a tool to help you? Or is those people seriously just coming back through a job board or an applicant tracking system?
The option B. Yeah.
Interesting.
We're pretty manual. We're working on it, joining the 21st century, but it's still a lot of systems that don't necessarily communicate, but now we're bridging and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Okay. So last question. And again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. What was your first time in the hourly workforce? What was your first job? And were you fired from that job, or did you leave gracefully?
That's a good question. My first job was when I was 14. I actually grew up in Vail, Colorado. So it's a ski town, seasonal. So my first job was working at a restaurant on top of Vail Mountain that I had to take a chairlift and a snowcat and snowboard to every day. I was the baked potato scrubber. So that's what I got to do all day. Scrub baked potatoes for the baked potato bar, wrap them in foil, put them in the oven. That was my job. I loved it. It was seasonal. So, I think I exited gracefully at the end of the season. But then I stayed in hospitality. So that was my first taste.
Love it. Well, if somebody wants to learn more about you or the company, what's a good place to do that?
Absolutely. LinkedIn, you can find me, Meagan Francisco. Bolero has a fantastic website, BoleroCorp.com. And reach out on any of our socials.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Awesome. AJ, this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.